please welcome the NFDA Convention Chaplain, Reverend Larry Earl.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As we come to this time of our convention, I know for many, as you can look around, a lot of folks have already gone home. But it's our desire and has been our desire of every part of this convention. A great quote by Martin Van Buren: "It's easier to do a job right than to explain why you didn't." And I know that's been the example of all the whole convention. But from the Word of God in Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 20, the words read like this: "Get all the advice and instruction you can, and be wise the rest of your life." That has also been our goal. Would you pray with me this morning? Dear Lord, as we come to this time of the convention, Lord, we know that many are traveling, so we ask for mercy for all those that are going back home, wherever that might be. For Lord, for a lot of those folks, that's a long ways away from here. So we ask for that traveling mercies to be with them. And Lord, throughout the rest of this day, we just know, Lord, that we're celebrating all this day. New things, old things, and yes, new beginnings. And so again, we ask your blessing on each and every one. Thank you for this time of life. It's been a grand time together. And Lord, this morning I just pray to our people, enjoy the journey. And may God bless each and every one of you. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome NFDA President Randy Earl.
Good morning. It's been a thrill to be a part of this convention in the world's largest annual funeral service expo. It's also been amazing to be among such a committed network of funeral professionals. The expo was extraordinary. We genuinely appreciate all the support that our funeral suppliers and partners provide us. We really appreciate and value this year's generous convention sponsors, and they are Platinum, Federated Insurance Company; Gold, Fraser Consultants; Silver, Batesville Casket Company; Facultative Technologies; The Help Card; Madeline Company; Nomus Publications. Our bronze sponsors are the American Financial, Bass Mollet Publishers, Deaton Kennedy Company, Director Select Retirement Plan, Doric Products, Funeral Home Gifts, the Heritage Club, Homesteaders Life Company, Messenger, and Wilbert Funeral Services. Convention contributors: Cemetery Funeral Supply, Funeral One, Global Mortuary Affairs, Hepburn U.S. Chemical, Johnson Consulting, and Roberts and Downey. If there are representatives from any of our sponsoring or contributing companies in the audience, would you please stand and be recognized? Thanks again for all your support. We're proud to be partners with you to serve funeral directors from around the globe. It's time to recognize the winners of the booth contest in the Expo Hall. Thanks to every one of you who voted. There were 6 entrants in the Category 1, booths 400 square feet or larger, 6 in Category 2, which are booths 300 square feet or smaller, and 10 in Category 3, new exhibitors of any size. The criteria for the award was creativity, imagination, and original thought. Use of product, images, and visuals in booth design, booth staff enthusiasm, friendliness, and interaction with attendees, promotional giveaways, overall appearance and experience. This year's winners are, in Category 1, Messenger; in Category 2, Nomus Publications; in Category 3, congratulations to Eternitrees; Kudos to all the winners. We appreciate that you made the effort to participate in this contest. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mack Dryden. Our speaker today, this afternoon, has an unusual list of accomplishments, to say the least. He's appeared in several feature films and numerous TV shows, including The Tonight Show with both Johnny Carson and Jay Leno. And he is handpicked by Bill Maher for the writing staff of Politically Incorrect. Mack Dryden was born and raised in Mississippi, where he was an award-winning journalist and a black belt karate champion, and is, in fact, the only living comedian to have been personally kicked in the backside by Chuck Norris. Over the years, Mack Dryden has managed to survive a terrifying stay in an African prison, 2 different types of cancer, and 1 near-fatal marriage. He's here to entertain us and to share some of the tools he's used to achieve his many goals. Please welcome Mack Dryden.
Hi. Hello. Oh, great to see you all. It's a thrill to be here for me. I'm going to have a great time with you folks this morning. That was a great introduction, by the way, Randy, a terrific introduction. That might be the best introduction I have ever written. So that's a keeper there, I think, folks. It's a thrill. As Randy said, I am from Mississippi, and I love to get back in the South. I've lived all over the place for a while, and it's wonderful to get back south because you can get your heart blessed 12 times a day. They didn't bring that coffee to you yet, honey. Well, bless your heart. You had to drag that stuff over here all by yourself. Well, bless your heart. I lived out in L.A. for a while. That's a no-blessing zone, ladies and gentlemen. Bless the heart, go to jail out there. But down here, it's so sweet. It's so nice because you can say anything about anybody as long as you tag it with that, right? Poor thing, he ain't got the sense. God give a mud turtle, bless his heart. Ugly as a fuzzy-headed bull frog, bless his heart. I hope they get that child some braces. She could eat watermelon through a picket fence, bless her heart. Poor thing. But it is so sweet. It's great. And the hotel, great hotel, that Hilton over there is just really nice. I did make a mistake. I ordered room service last night, however. And man, after the delivery charge and the elevator fee and the flower tax and everything, it would have been cheaper to rent a car and go to Hooters, I think. But anyway, I still like it. It's a nice hotel, great hotel. The free water, for one thing. That's a pretty big deal for a road warrior. I mean, I was just in Miami, walked into my room, there was a $6 bottle of water in my room for my convenience. And I'm thinking that must be a real hassle for them, keeping up with the accounting and everything. So for their convenience, I drank mine and filled it back up in the sink. So I recommend you all do that. They'll thank you for it. They will. One thing I don't care for in the Hilton room is that magnifying mirror in the bathroom. I mean, that's fine for you ladies with your smooth faces and everything, but us guys, that is too much information, folks. We're just whiskers and pores. Come on. I looked into that thing. I looked like a colander with nose hair. It was awful. It was just... Here's a tip, though, guys. If you step out of the shower and just walk over to that thing, it will boost your self-esteem. Just saying. People think, I love this group. People think of your industry as being recession-proof, because people keep dying, but it's not the case because people lower their product, the purchases and services and all that. So you've struggled like everybody else. But I really am impressed with the way the NFDA has met the challenge head on, much like we do in our family when we're having a financial crisis. First thing we do is meet 1,000 of our closest friends in a luxury hotel for some great food and booze. That's the first thing we do, too. I feel kind of an affinity for you. I really do. as a comedian, you know, I've died many times on stage, and I've killed as well, so I feel like we're partners in the death industry in a way, but I'm just a working stiff, and you actually get to work. Well, you can finish that joke. I won't go there. What else? You're very generous, too. I worked for Apple a couple of months ago. I got back to my room. There was an iPod in my room for me. I thought that was sweet. I worked for Nike not too long ago. 2 pair of running shoes. But when I walked in that room and saw that urn, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I have an anniversary coming up. My wife's going to be so thrilled. And quizzical, probably. Oh, speaking of the hotel, the room gifts, I travel a lot, and the room gifts in this hotel are unbelievable. You know, you put these little lotions and shampoo and soap in your suitcase, they'll bring you some more the next day. It's great. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe all the stuff that was in my room. That was right there in my bathroom. Isn't it great? Just lovely. Didn't have one of those. These will fit into the overhead bins, by the way. I got 147 of these at home, and I'm going to start a little shop when we retire. Well, as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be the most serious seminar you will attend while you're here at NFDA. I am going to be up here having some fun with you, and also getting some practical tools in your pocket so you can take them home to use to achieve your goals. I'm not a great bloviator like Pat is. The great bloviator. I love that. That's an odd word, isn't it? Doc, I'm feeling a little bloviated. We'll try some Gas X. It'll knock that out. Okay. Anyway, no, I'm going to give you, first of all, by the way, I was working in Atlanta, and I ran across something, and I wanted to share it with you. You know, they're expecting this fall possibility of a return of the swine flu, and you know that they've given you many preventative measures. Wash your hands often and cough into your elbow. Well, they've just come up with another preventative measure that you'd want to be aware of. So, of course, you're smart folks. You probably stopped kissing pigs ages ago. But no, today we're going to have some fun, but I'm going to give you a formula that is guaranteed to help you reach your goals, or I'll refund my fee if you can find me. But you're saying one size fits all goal achieving formula? Sure, you've heard all of the personal achievement gurus talking about the power of positive thinking and all that, and I tell you, I did a study, and here's how it happened. I have gone through a couple of major challenges in my life, and when I got out safely on the other side of them, I said, wow, I have been messing around, and there's a lot of things that I didn't get around to that I wanted to achieve, and so I went into a real study of goal achieving. It turns out there's a whole field of research about goal achieving, and it turns out also, after I read all the books and watched all the videos, that practically everybody is saying the same thing. And every successful person has used this basically same formula from the beginning of time. Everybody from Alexander the Great to Jason Alexander, from Oprah to Chopra, from Uma to Obama to the Dalai Lama. They all use this formula to get what they want out of life. And I'm going to share it with you today so you don't have to buy all the books and tapes. All right, number one, first, it's really hard to get going. That's the hardest step right there. Then keep going. Thank you so much. You've been a lot of fun. It's been great. Okay, I'm joking as usual. No, it's just a simple 7-step formula, and some of it will be very intuitive to you, I'm sure, but some of it won't be. Some of it will be kind of a surprise, and I'm going to give you some tips and steps that I use to get to the next step every time as I'm going for my goal. Number one, control your fears and stresses. You know how important that is. It's very stressful. Job can be with people depending on you all the time. And you know how powerful a force stress is. You've probably heard that it weakens your immune system. You know, when you're stressed out, you get more colds and sore throats and all that. Listen how powerful it is. They have actually proven that stress can prevent wounds from healing properly. That's powerful. It's having that kind of effect on your body. Imagine what it's doing on your mind. You can't work to your maximum potential when you're all stressed out. They did a study recently where they asked people what scared them the most, what stressed them out the most. You know what the number one thing was? Public speaking. You know what came in second? Death. Public speaking, death. Apparently most people would rather die than do what I'm doing right now, which is good for my business, cuts down on the competition, you would think, but you can probably relate. If you've ever been up in front of a group of people you're not familiar with, you know that thing that goes up your spine and that little tingly thing on your scalp, and then those bat-sized butterflies get going, and then that circuit between your brain and your mouth can just short out. My dad was backstage at Toastmasters with a fellow one time who was nervous as he could be. First time he was going on, he said, "Herb, what is that thing I'll be standing behind? Is that the rostrum?" My dad thought it was a lectern. Lectern, rostrum, they went back and forth. The guy stumbled on stage. He says, "As I stand behind this rectum," didn't control his stress. You got to get it under control or it will control you. Next up. Maintain a very positive mental attitude is true. I'm going to come back to these, by the way. I'm just going to breeze through them real quickly. But, you know, you've heard it all your life, positive mental attitude. Well, it turns out that this is science as well. They proved it 1,000 times. Positive attitude gets a positive result, and negative attitude gets a negative result. And you just have to be careful how you express that positive sentiment sometimes. You might have heard about the couple who've been married for 30 years. Late at night, the fellow's sitting in bed reading. His wife is standing in her underwear in front of the full-length mirror, and she's not happy. She says, "Fred, I'm feeling old and overweight and unattractive. You have to say something positive about me." He looked over his glasses and said, "Well, your eyesight's darn near perfect." That would be the wrong way there. Yes, don't do that. Next up, got to identify a very specific target. And, one thing about getting older, we know more what we want out of life, don't you? You might have heard very specifically what we want. Might have heard about the retired fella who was in a boat fishing, and a frog jumped in the boat with him and said, "If you'll kiss me, I'll turn into the most desirable young woman you've ever seen in your life. I'll want to do nothing but satisfy your every desire for the rest of your life." He looked at it a second, put it in his pocket. The frog said, "Whoa, didn't you hear what I said?" He said, "Yeah, but at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog." So, I can relate, yeah. Have to write a plan, very important, it is. Got to have a plan ahead of you. As you know, failing to plan is like planning to fail. We always do it in our professional lives, in your businesses. I'm sure you have a business plan. We kind of fail to do that in our personal lives, don't we? Don't write that plan out. Very important. Got to have that roadmap so we know where we're headed. I have a different way to go about it that might help you out. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Guy had a plan when he walked into a bar. Have you heard this one? He says to the bartender, "Line up 8 shots of your most expensive bourbon. I don't care what the price." Guy set them up. Fella planted his feet. Bam, bam, bam. Knocked them all back. The bartender said, "My goodness, I've been a bartender 30 years. I've never seen anybody drink like that." And he said, "Well, if you had what I had, you'd drink like that too." He said, "Really?" He said, "What do you got?" Guy said, "About $1." I wouldn't recommend that. Have to take action. And that's a tough one because sometimes it can be very scary if you're doing something you've never done before, putting that toe in that ice cold water. It's kind of, you're afraid of humiliation, whatever it is. You got to get started. I'm going to give you an idea about that a little later too. I had to take action a little late. Not too long ago, I was down in Mississippi for a big family reunion, and a cousin of mine came up to me and said, "Mack, I've been studying up on the genealogy, our family tree and all that. Do you realize that you are 164th Choctaw Indian?" I thought, wow, it's pretty interesting. And so I did some studying, research on the culture and history of my people. And I found it fascinating, but it hardly ever comes up in the conversation, I found. So I have to bring it up myself. And I fly a lot. being an entertainer. And so, you know, after a couple of boring hours on a flight, just to break the ice, I might turn to the person next to me and say something like, hey, 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 hey. They're always real surprised because I don't look Choctaw at all, you know. But anyway, you got to take action. Then you have to observe objectively what kind of reaction you're getting from the world, how the world is seeing this. You know, so many people keep doing the same thing over and over, whether it's working or not, because that's the way we've always done it, or that's the way the boss said we got to do it, or that's on the plan, and my goodness, we can't change the plan. Well, of course you can change the plan if it's not working. And then don't be obstinate and just hear and see what you want to hear, because that's the easy path, you know. Listen to what kind of response you're getting. My Aunt Merlene bugged my Uncle Buddy for months and months to get a hearing aid. He just wouldn't have it. You got anybody in your family like that? Nothing wrong with my hearing, you mumble. You ever heard that one? That TV just don't turn up high enough. That's the problem. Well, they argued back and forth, and after a while, my Uncle Buddy was accusing Aunt Merlene of being the one that needed the hearing aid. You're the one that can't hear, not me. Oh, so they were arguing. One day, perfect situation, Aunt Merlene's in the back bedroom with her back to the door, folding clothes. Uncle Buddy sees her down the hall, 40 feet away. Perfect. He's going to test her. He says, Merlene, can you hear me? She didn't turn a hair. 10 feet closer. Merlene, can you hear me? Nothing. 10 feet closer, same thing. Till he's 3 feet behind her, he says, Merlene, can you hear me? Without turning around, my Aunt Merlene said, for the 4th time, yes. You have to listen to what the world is telling you. You might have heard about the older fella who his grown children have kept begging him, Pop, please stop driving. You know, your eyesight's not nearly as good. Your reflexes are slower. It's dangerous out there. Please get off. And I have nothing wrong with me. Leave me alone. I'm driving fine. He takes off one day across town. About 20 minutes, his cell phone rings. His wife is frantic. He says, Frank, please be careful. I'm listening to the radio. There's a maniac going the wrong way on the interstate. He says, one, heck, there's hundreds of them. So he should have listened to what the world was trying to tell him. And the older we get, of course, we have diminished capacities in so many ways. I know I do. We get a little slower, and there's one that just I have experienced that made me kind of laugh, and I made a video about it, and I thought that you would enjoy it, so I brought it today to share it with you. I hope you enjoy.
Hi there. If you're young and haven't started misplacing things and being absent-minded, don't feel too smug about it, because your time is coming. I guarantee it.
You'll never know how much it really bugs you. You'll never know until your brain's impaired. Listen, do you want to know a secret? Forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, it's maddening. Tell me why I'm in the kitchen. Now my mission isn't clear. It just disappeared. Listen.
Brittany, Griffin, Spencer, the tall one, the one that still lives here.
I get my children's names all wrong. Oh, so scary. My coffee cup, it hides from me. It runs around when I can't see, like my memory. Got 2 pair of glasses now in every room. My car keys, for all I know, are on the loom. Listen, do you want to know a secret? Forgot just how to end this song. Oh, so sorry. I somehow knew I'd get it wrong. It's here 1 minute, then it's gone in the ozone. Ooh.
Thank you. Of course, no one's here is like that, right? Yeah, I know. But, so you have to listen to what the world is telling you about the action that you're taking and how well it's working. That way you can learn from it and you can adjust your approach and change your behavior and even change directions in the middle of your quest, whatever it might be. And if you stick with it, even though you might not think you're perfectly suited to this task, if you stick with it, you will be triumphant. Okay, gotta believe there. There it is, pretty simple formula. Control your fears and stresses right up top, and I put it up there because it is so important. If you don't have that under control, you just don't control anything. You can't go to the next step, really. And the biggest stress in my life, probably still is, even though I've cut it back a lot, is traveling. I flew yesterday from Vancouver to get here, would you believe, ladies and gentlemen? It's a long day, and I sometimes, am I going to make it through that connection in Salt Lake City? I hope it's not late. I hope there's not a thunderstorm. And I used to get so stressed out that my wounds were not even healing properly. That's how bad it was. And one day, I was sitting on the tarmac in Dallas, and I just had to make this connection. I had to make it, and I was giving it a lot of energy, and I get a window seat all the time, and I'm looking down, and I realize with all this energy I'm giving it, I'm not raising the plane an inch. I'm burning all these brain cells and dripping acid into my stomach and raising my blood pressure, and I'm not getting anything back for it. Kind of like driving down the highway and throwing cash out the window. That's how good an investment that is, you know. And you can relate. I mean, if you're in traffic and suddenly the guy cuts you off, and you turn from a mild-mannered member of NFDA into a homicidal maniac, just like it. I'd like to kill, like, you know. He's up there living la vida loca, you know. He doesn't care. So who are you really killing? So finally, I said, okay, this is not doing me any good. I figured out something. Stress comes in two categories as far as I'm concerned. Things you can do something about, which would include, well, accident prevention is a good way to start. Always keep an eye on the children, of course. That is a very stressful thing if they get out there. Routine maintenance is an important thing. Then things you cannot control at all, which would include, the weather, morons in traffic. I lived in LA for 30 years. I just happily escaped a couple of years ago, but the traffic is just horrendous. I'll tell you how rude and inconsiderate they are. I got home after a horrendous drive across town one day and realized I had a sunburned finger. That's how bad it is. But air traffic control. You just can't control it, so you have to. What's the only thing that an intelligent person like you are can do when it's that stress category where you can do nothing about it? You have to let it go, and it's really tough. I know. I've trained myself now. When I start getting stressed, the back of my neck heats up. Everybody has a different stress point somewhere. When I feel that, I say, okay, all right, can I do something about it or not? All right, no, forget it. Take a deep breath, and I try to put myself in a better mood. There's a million ways to do it. People send me funny pictures. They send me stories all the time. A buddy sent me one the other day. A salesman rings the doorbell, an 11-year-old boy answers the door. He's got a lit cigar in one hand, an open beer in the other, and a Penthouse magazine under his elbow. Salesman says, well, son, is your mom or dad at home? He says, what the hell do you think? Which, yeah, right. If you've got boys, as I do, you know, yeah, right, yeah, let me get them, they're right here. So that's going to make me laugh every time I think about it for the next 30 years. I use that to put myself in a better mood, and now I can get on with my task at hand. And here it is. When I'm on a plane, I usually I'm a writer, so I got 15 projects going on all the time. A lot of people like to grab their gaming equipment or their magazine or whatever for a little recreation, relax. I got things to do, so I grab that legal pad or that laptop and I go to work, but I do something very important first. I set a deadline. All right, before this plane takes off, there's my deadline. I'm going to accomplish tasks A through D, say. Might be 4 sentences, 4 paragraphs, 4 pages if I've got the time and I'm really on a roll, or just 4 ideas for the next thing I have to do, whatever it is, and I get to work. And writing takes all your focus. And there I am, I'm getting something done, I'm doing something constructive, and I look up and whoop, I'm only on B, but I've gotten something done, I'm not just stressing out, I've turned it 180 degrees from a negative into a positive. I'm sure you can customize that to your situation. My dad is kind of he's got that stress thing under control. He's 87 years old. Thank goodness we've got him to slow down on his driving and such. But several years back, I was in the car with him, and I was back in Mississippi. He was driving. And we pulled up behind a fella, stopped at a red light, and the light turned green, and the guy just sat there. And I was living in L.A. at the time, so my fingers were itching, because out in L.A. we give them about an eighth of a second before we remind them of what they're supposed to be doing, you know. Were you waiting for a particular shade of green there, buddy? My dad just sits there, and I said, why doesn't the guy go, you know? And he said, well, son, that's obviously his favorite spot. You don't disturb a man when he's in his favorite spot. Then the guy turned left, and I just went ballistic. Look at that, turned left, didn't even signal. Why didn't the guy signal? My dad said, well, that'd spoil the big surprise, would it? Then we'd all know where he's going, and he's a very private person, you see. My dad has got that stress thing under control, I'm telling you. He also happens to be kind of the poster boy for a positive mental attitude. He, by the way, my dad is where I got my sense of humor, and I hope my positive attitude. He's just amazing. And here's just one out of 1,000 examples. About a dozen years ago, he had an operation, came out of it, and has to wear a colostomy bag for the rest of his life, which for a lot of people, oh, it's tragic, it's horrible, that's the end of life, I'm not going to leave the house, I'm not going to go to church or social functions or anything because of this awful thing. Not my dad. He said he saw it as a new lease on life. You know, several years ago, I asked him about it. How's that thing treating you? Oh, it's my favorite thing. Really? Well, sure. Heck, without this thing, I'd have filled up like a water balloon and exploded. So what's not to like? I like it, you know. And then he said, you know, people say there's an odor associated with it. The way I look at it, it keeps people's mind off your bad breath. That's his attitude. And does everybody know that Mr. Herb has this thing? Of course they do. Does it keep him from being invited to every single function in Jackson County, Mississippi? Heck no. Everybody wants Mr. Herb to bring that sense of humor, that wit, that confidence, that optimism. He has this aura about him, and that bag has not a part of my dad. He brings that with him. And people want to be a part of that. People go out of their way. Mr. Herb, anything I can do for you? Because they want to be with him and get the benefit of that aura that he carries with him. And that's all I'm saying to you. Have a positive mental attitude. You'll get teammates, and you've got big goals, big obstacles. You need all the help you can get, and teammates will come on board from places you never would have even believed. There you go. Next, you have to identify a specific target. Okay, let's identify a specific one that we've all dealt with, myself included. I want to lose some weight. Is that a good goal? I want to lose some weight. Is that a good goal? No, that's a passing fancy. That'll pass as soon as you fancy a big old jelly roll, won't it? Yeah. Now here's a good goal. How about this one? Where are we? In early October? How about this one? I'm going to lose 3 pounds before Thanksgiving and keep off every ounce for the rest of my life. There's a good goal. It's got a deadline, not too far away. Got something you can shoot for, and you can make your plan, which consists of diet and exercise, folks. There's no magic bullets out there. And then you can go for it, a little bit at a time, little tiny baby steps. A man came up to me after one of my programs recently. He said, I lost 62 pounds last year. I said, wow, congratulations. How'd you do that? He said, I tried to lose 20 pounds and I couldn't do it. It was too hard. I just could not. So I cut back. I dialed it back. I decided to see if I could lose 10 pounds. Again, too much. Couldn't do it. But I noticed that week I had lost 1.5 pounds. So I thought, well, shoot, I'll bet I could do that again. He lost 1.5 pounds a week until he lost 62 pounds. Little tiny baby steps. That's the way you get to your goal. Have to write a plan. I write contracts. Different people do it different ways. I knew that when I was in university, I got interested in karate, and I wanted to earn a black belt. And It's hard. You know, people say, oh, he knows karate, like they take you behind the curtain and give you the secret, and then you know. Oh, no. It's hard, folks. You're always beat up. Something's hurting, something's strained, something's stretched or pulled, or a tooth is chipped, whatever. You're hurting all the time, and I knew I was 300 miles from home. I needed a little push. Nobody was there to tell me to go to practice. So I wrote a letter to a mentor of mine, a man I really respected a lot, and I cared what he thought of me, you know, and I said, Doug, I am going to earn a black belt in Taekwondo before I graduate. That was 3 years away. And I hesitated. That was back when you actually had to use an envelope, remember that? And I stood at the mailbox for a second. I thought, oh, do I really want this? Because I know Doug, I know what he's going to do. Bing, sure enough, I let it go. Worked like a charm. Every time I came home, he was all over me. You still a green belt? I thought you were going to go up to purple. By now, you know, if you were going to be at that tournament up in Vicksburg, I was going to come see you, but you didn't. He pushed me. I knew I was disappointing Doug every time I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And it worked. It worked very well for me. Not every plan will work, ladies and gentlemen. That's a bomb, if you can't see that in the back. That looks like the sound of a job opening, doesn't it? But anyway, make a plan is very important so you can know how you're getting along. Take action, like I did. I had to do that. Oh, just the other day, I got some gas, went into this convenience store, grabbed a couple of snacks, put a 20 down, and the guy gave me my change, and something was wrong, and I looked at it and left it on the counter, thank goodness, and I counted again. Sure enough, he had shorted me by $5. I said, man, for 200 years, this is the way we've been treated by the white man. He said, hey, 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 oh. It embarrasses my children. Whining lizard, sulking elk, texting moose. Kind of annoys my wife. Screeching badger, she gets kind of annoyed too. I'm joking. I love my wife. I had a practice wife. But I have found my soulmate, and I'm going to keep her. And I had to take some action to make sure of that, I'm telling you. But we've been married 16 years, and I know people ask me, that's a Hollywood marriage, folks. We got married out there, so that's the equivalent to what, 6 or 7 Hollywood marriages? Easy. But this one's solid, and it's going to stick around. And one reason, and I finally figured it out, the secret, people ask me, and the secret is, to a long relationship like that, you have to know what the other person needs and help provide that. And men and women have such different needs. It's amazing how different they are. Men need more of some things, women need more of others. For example, my wife has taught me that she needs more calcium, iron, time in the bathroom, heart-to-heart communication, hand-holding, hand-wringing, hand lotion, ointments, unguents, emollients, cotton balls, phone time with her mother, products to care for her hair, eyes, lips, skin, fingernails, toenails, cracked heels, exfoliation and feminine needs, unwanted hair and odors, lipstick, lip balm, lip gloss, lip liner, constant assurance that her butt is exactly the right size. She needs more candles and little glass and porcelain things, mirrors. She needs more things made of gold, silk, and wicker. Pillows of every conceivable shape and size. Detailed information about the neighbors' personal lives. Time to express her feelings. Time to discuss why you have no feelings or the wrong feelings. Time to correct your every imperfection and rehabilitate you. An elegant little purse that carries a credit card and lipstick, and an epic purse that carries Walgreens. Matching accessories baskets, loofahs, potpourri, hundreds of tiny little bottles with mysterious stuff in them, dozens of pretty little boxes with nothing in them, and an occasional girls' night out with a gay guy who can dance, and that's about it. That's about it. Thank you, yeah. Well, and guys, now, we have our needs too. We need more of a lot more other things. For example, guys need more televised sports. That's about it. We're pretty happy. We're simpler creatures, aren't we? We're just so lucky that we have our wives who are so generous with their time to constantly train us how we should dress and drive and comb our hair and eat and watch TV and relax and just the things we do when we are awake. Other than that, we can handle it ourselves. But anyway, that's my final wife right there. She is an artist. I'm going to hold on to her. Yeah. Oh, okay. I cut that one off. I didn't do that well. I'm scared to look what the next one is. But going after things, little tiny baby steps, I had to learn that, obviously, a little at a time over the years. But I was coming up on my 50th birthday about years ago, and I thought, you're still in pretty good shape there, buddy. I bet you could do a lot of those things you could do when you were a 24-year-old black belt. And so I tried some of those stretches that I used to do, and I near about killed myself. So I set a goal. I said, on my 50th birthday, I'm going to be able to do some of those stretches again. So I started working out little at a time, and I'm up there, yeah. And people say, oh, I don't have any time left. In the day, there's no time in the day. Well, I found microwave time. I go to the microwave 5 or 6 times a day, and what do we do every time? Doot, doot, doot. If you want it to cook faster, you do this. Speeds it up. There, you see. But first of all, I did some calculating. I got some measuring going, and I did the division. And for example, on this particular one, if I could get only 1/13 of an inch closer to the floor every day between that day and my 50th, I'd be able to do that one again. And I got there, but I didn't get there one day. I got there a little at a time. I used to be able to stand up like this and put my nose between my knees. And it hurt a lot when I tried it. So I got a broomstick, and I cut it off. I got a table saw, and I got as far as I could, and I marked it, and I went bink, and I'd go in, and if I could get a little bit farther, and I'd put that broomstick on my knee, and I'd cut it off a little more, and every day I'd get a little closer. Little tiny baby steps. That's how you get there. Not a big deal. I'm not looking forward to my next birthday, man. That's going to be a bear. One of the first big goals I went for as a young man, I wanted to be a writer. Didn't have much experience. Who does when they're 22 years old? I'd had a couple of roommates who had traveled extensively in Europe, and they used to regale me with all their stories about traveling and the adventures of traveling across Europe. I set myself a goal. I'm going to get out of grad school, get a job, make a grub steak, a traveling steak, and then when I've got it, the 3 Musketeers, me and my 2 buddies, we're going to take off to Europe to see how long we can travel over there and live off our wits. Well, the time came, and one of my buddies had to work on his dissertation that had been rejected. The other one fell in love, got married, ending his life as we knew it. So my mom was pretty happy. You can't go off there all by yourself. I said, I've worked too hard at this. I have to go. Her friend said, don't worry about it, Neva. He'll be back in 3 weeks needing a hot shower and something decent to eat. It didn't quite work out that way. I was gone for 15 months over there by myself, traveling in the most exotic places you can imagine and learning the best education of my life. It was quite, I wanted to test myself, and this was quite a challenge, and I had the most glorious, wonderful educational time of my life and also the most terrifying time of my life. I bought a van when all the students were coming back at the end of the summer. I got a deal on that baby, let me tell you, and I lived in it. Camped from the middle of Paris to the middle of nowhere. I got all kind of work in different places. I picked grapes in France, hardest work I've ever done. You can imagine duck walking in mud 8 hours a day. That's my boss and his foreman there on the left, who smoked 6,000 cigarettes a day. Those are his lungs in the truck, by the way. We're taking them in to be tested. So I fixed my van after the harvest. It was prone to be broken down. And I took off to Sicily, where I got my next executive position, gutting fish and digging clams. And then I went over to Spain and loaded this stuff into trucks. Anybody know what that is? Cork, yeah. I thought it came out of wine bottles. I had no idea. It's amazing how educational it is when you're over there. So I fixed my van again, and I took off, and this time I figured out a way to keep moving and keep food in the belly and gas in the tank. I went down to Morocco, which, as you know, is a very poor third world country. For example, here in the States, we generally use trucks to pull our livestock. They do it kind of the other way there, oddly. But I never knew what I was going to see when I looked out the back of my van in the morning. It was amazing. That's what I went down for, goulamine beads, African trade beads. They were kind of all the rage among the backpackers in Europe when I was over there. So to prove you'd been to North Africa, you got your trade beads. And I went to Spain, and I bought leather that I could make my hippie jewelry with, and I sat in campgrounds, and kids would come around and ask me what I was doing, and with a very positive mental attitude, I'd rip them off for about a 5,000% markup. But they were happy with it. I was happy with the arrangement, and I ran out of stuff, and I had to go back to Morocco. As I say, very poor. I was a target because I looked like this, and I had some money to spend, so naturally I had people trying to get some of that all the time. Very, very poor country. I did have the most terrifying event of my life when I was down there, but in all fairness, I must say that the Moroccans are some of the most friendly, generous, wonderful people on earth. Look at that pitiful little soccer ball down there, bottom left, that they were trying to play with. I bought them a new ball. You would have thought I got them, every one, a new Mercedes. It was amazing. This fella actually, I walked into town after my van broke down in the mountains, and this guy brought 2 donkeys out and pulled my van in 3 miles, fixed my van. He's a mechanic. And my payment was that I had to have dinner and stay the night with him and his lovely family. So that's what kind of people they are. This fella actually ended up saving my life. I was down there on my 3rd trip, and I was walking through the Medina in Fez looking for stuff to buy. And a fella slithered out of an alley and asked me to come into this alley to see some merchandise that he had. I just didn't like the way the guy looked, and it looked like there was another guy over there working with him. So I said, I don't think so, thank you. And I started walking off. He got in front of me, started insisting, no, you have to, you have to. I said, no, I don't have to, but thanks very much. I started off again. He grabbed me. I turned around. I knew a few nasty Arabic words back then, and I used all of them, and it didn't work. Because I started again, he grabbed me. This time I'd lost it. I was, what can I tell you? I was 23 years old. I was very well trained, and I got, that was a bad combination. I used to go out of focus as soon as I won a trophy for some reason, but anyway. So I pushed him. He fell down. It embarrassed him. It was a crowded marketplace. And there were people passing by. So he jumped up and he made a mistake. He charged me. Then we do things we're not proud of in our lives, folks, and I'm not proud of it, but I hit him for a while. He was very stubborn, would not go to sleep. I was trying to help him drift off, and he just wouldn't have it. Had a skull about this thick. So after an extremely nasty, violent, bloody thing, I finally got him to sleep just as 3 soldiers with guns came up and put them in my face and marched me off to jail. And they put me in a 20 by 20 concrete room with 26 of the most charming individuals you would ever want to meet. Oh my. Witty, sophisticated. Oh, gosh. We stay in touch. Oh my. I knew it was going to get tough that first night. They assumed that they had run out of cigarettes, assumed I must have some on my body somewhere. I didn't smoke. And I had to nearly get naked to prove that I had no cigarettes, which even if you've never spent a single day in jail, you know that's just not a good idea, particularly when you're a fair-haired exotic like I was. You know, I kind of stood out from the crowd. Well, the next day, I knew this was going to get rough. Didn't know how long I was going to be there. The next day, I went up to the front. They called me up to the front. They asked me some questions. And I asked them about the fellow that I had left in the street, and they told me that he had choked on his own blood and had died in the street. And that was the lowest point in my life to this date. That's the most despair I've ever felt, because I thought the possibility existed that just as my life was getting going, it was going to be over. I was going to be spending the rest of my life in the Moroccan jail, which was not a pleasant place to be, I can tell you. So I had to make a plan. How am I going to get some respect from these guys while I'm here so I don't have to fight every day? I didn't want to fight again. That's what got me in trouble. So I made a plan that night, and the next day I got up and I went in the restroom right next door to our cell, exquisitely appointed, as you can imagine. And I quickly warmed up, and when I sensed somebody in the doorway, I went into the most blood-curdling kata I could come up with. I jumped, I flew, I crossed, I gouged, I did all that stuff that I'd learned. I'm doing it slow motion now, don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, my wife says, hey, you're a gray belt, slow down. Okay, I am. And when I looked back over there were two guys, looked like they'd seen Godzilla. And they ran back in the cell, and my plan worked because I was hoping that they were the worst reporters in the history of the world, and sure enough, they were. When I walked back in that cell, there were 26 guys who had been told that I could fly, I could walk on the ceiling, I could put my fist through a foot of bricks. I was letting them live because it amused me. God forgive me, I didn't correct anybody. It really came in handy because the next day they came and they put us in leg irons, and they put us in the back of a truck, and they drove us to the National Prison of Morocco. I never forget, as those big gates opened and we drove in, I was thinking, boy, my parents would be so proud. Yeah, 6 years of college for this. I made it to the Nationals, Mom. Anyway, as they were processing us in, an old guard found out I was American, and he handed me an English language Time magazine. I grabbed that thing like it was treasure. I had no idea how long I was going to be there. So when we found our cell, it was a big room, held about 60 men. The new guys walked in. They all took a look at us. I was trying to find a neutral spot to sit down when a young thug came by and just snatched that magazine out of my hand before I knew what was going on. Everybody looked at me to see what I'd do about it. I didn't do anything. I just sat. That's when my public relations team went to work. American, karate. That magazine was in my hand in about 12 seconds. It was amazing. I had more best friends than I knew what to do with. So I put my bold plan into action, and it worked. And obviously it worked very well, because here I am before you today and not in a horrible place. I can tell you lots of stories about life in a Moroccan prison, but people ask me what we ate, since people on the outside don't get enough to eat in Morocco. I think I figured out what they served us every day. I called it goat butt soup, because I think I figured out the recipe. You take a 55-gallon drum of water, and you chop 1 carrot and 1 onion and some leaves from a bush, and you throw it in there, and you boil it a couple of days. Then you take a live goat, and you stuff him in there for 3 minutes or to taste. Remove goat and serve cool with 5-day-old bread. After about a week of that, I was praying for my freedom and a normal bowel movement, as you can well imagine. But anyway, people ask me all kind of questions. I'm sure would you like to know how long I was in there? Yeah, well, happily I've written a book with the whole story in it. And how long I was in there, unfortunately, is kind of the suspense thread. So I can't give away the ending of the book. And I will be right back there in the back of the room if anybody would like me to sign a book for them. I'd be happy to. The whole wild story is in there, and I made it as funny as I could. And that's the quickest commercial you'll see in a while. So, when I got back to the States, I, by the way, had used that formula to survive that, get through that challenge, but I found my next big challenge. I felt a lump in my body where it didn't belong, and I went to the doctor and I got the bad news that I am sure many of you have. Mr. Dryden, you have cancer. And it buckled my knees and knocked the breath out of me. And when I got my breath back, I said, okay, doc, what are we going to do about this? He said, you're going to go into surgery, you are going to lose a testicle, you're going to undergo 17 weeks of radiation treatments, and you're going to pray to God that we get it all. And I said, but that sounds uncomfortable. And we're talking about one of my personal favorite organs here. I don't want to rush into anything. You know, I didn't want to break up the set or anything. Can I just, you know, you get more attached to some organs than others. I mean, particularly if you're a guy. I mean, I don't even know what my spleen feels like, you know. Can't be that much fun to scratch. That's all I'm thinking. I just can't. But, so I said, what happens if I just think about this for a while? He said, you'll die. I said, boy, I'm gonna miss you, little buddy. A week after that, I was into surgery, and a couple of days after that, I was being radiated, and I can look you in the eye this afternoon and tell you that I did not let stress take over the situation. I controlled it from the start. This was a classic Category 1 and 2 stress, the things that I could do nothing about, that I had to leave over to God and to the amazing wizards in the medical profession who went to school for years and years to learn this stuff that would just make my little brain explode. Oh boy, I was happy to hand that to them. Sure, you do your job. Me, things I could control, I was there, folks. I never missed an appointment. I took my meds on. I did exactly what they told me to do. I had a lot to live for. I was raising a 4-year-old daughter by myself at the time. But there was one thing I was thinking, you know, if I'm not doing all I can. We've all heard now of the healing benefits of laughter. It's fact. I mean, you can't pick up a newspaper or a magazine anymore without seeing another study where they found that laughter and having a good attitude and sense of humor can actually help your body. Well, I'd be the dumbest comedian in the world if I didn't get as many laughs as I could. The day before the operation, my doctor asked me if I wanted him to implant a plastic prosthesis so I would look the same. I said, why, Doc? Don't you think my friends will recognize me? Not planning to put a bunch of photos up on Facebook, I can tell you. But I'm glad I let him do it because now I can get hit with a pool cue and it hurts exactly half as much, so that's a good thing. I got laughs from my radiation mistress. You know, I'm lying buck naked on this glass slab. She's drawing these Navajo rug designs on me, aiming this thermonuclear device at me, tells me it's perfectly safe, and then what does she do? She puts on a lead vest and goes into another room. You know, she's in there flipping dials, turning switches and stuff, and I'm feeling really weird. I'm yelling, more power, Captain. The Grimulons are attacking the starboard pod, more power. She's laughing. I cheered up some folks when I was there. I think that's our job as well. I tried to cheer up my caregivers as much as possible. One day I was having a bad day. I had my head in the bucket. A lady came over and said, Mr. Dryden, how you doing? I said, well, I puked up about everything, but I think I found my class ring. And just making her laugh took such a burden off me, made me feel so much better just for that moment, you know, and that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need. Sorry. I'm sorry. Sometimes it just comes swooshing back. Sorry. So I had a roommate at the time, and he didn't get it. He didn't get why I was making fun and having fun with all this. He said, this is serious. This could kill you. I said, sure, Jim. That's why I'm doing it. I don't want it to kill me, you know. Besides, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Hey, you know, the radiation sterilized me, but I've already had the most beautiful kids in the world, so I got the crop in before I lost the farm, you know. So. And besides, I'm so lucky compared to so many people. I'm going to look the same and feel the same, and all my bodily functions are going to work the same. Believe me, guys, all of my bodily functions work just great, no problemo. It's a redundant system. I can see you fine right now, okay? But while I'm thinking about it, the next time you're in the bathtub or the shower doing what our wives accuse us of doing much too much of anyway, do a good job of it. If you feel anything that shouldn't be there, get to the doctor immediately. Immediately, folks. Moments count, really. So after 10 years of checkups, I came back to the doctor and got those great words, Mr. Dryden, you are 100% clean and clear of cancer. And you know what I said to him, of course. Bless your heart. So I thought, this is great. This is great. Here I am. I'm a relatively young man, and I've already got my cancer behind me. You know, 1 out of 2 guys get it. Well, there, I was that one, so I saved somebody else the trouble. And so I was feeling pretty good. And then 6 years ago, I had to change my prescription and my reading glasses. And I went to the optometrist, and he looked in there and saw something he didn't like, and he sent me to a specialist. And this specialist said, sent me to a real specialist who specializes in real special stuff. He said, Mr. Dryden, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're one of only 6 out of 1 million people in North America every year who get a malignant melanoma on the back of your eyeball. I said, well, lucky me. Wow, what are the chances? I said, gee, Doc, I'm having no luck at all with these round organs. Gee. He said, that's pretty funny. What are you, a comedian? I said, as it turns out. He said, well, good. That's a good attitude to have. I want you to come up with the best joke you can about this situation. It's not going to be the most pleasant thing you ever lived through, but you are actually very lucky because only 10 years ago, the only thing we knew to do in a case like this is to pop the eye out. And believe me, I've had enough people with glass eyes to come up to me after my program to know that that's very true indeed. He said, but because we can't get to it with traditional laser or radiation, it's too close to your brain, and you obviously can't lose any more of that. So we have learned how to sew a radioactive button on the back of your eyeball and nuke that sucker from behind. I said, sew something on my eyeball, oh goody. I was going to sew something on my eyeball this week anyway, Doc. Saved me the trouble. But I'm thinking the back of my eyeball, if they have to drill from here, that might hit something important, you know? You know how they get to the back of your eyeball to work on it? They deaden the muscles around your eye, and then they just pull it all the way around until they find what they want to work on, which is gross, but very handy, you know. It just beats the heck out of this, folks, I got to tell you. I was awake for this. Oh, yeah. Well, heck, I wanted to keep an eye on him. You know. So I went home, and I had to wear this big lead patch when I was around anybody because I was radioactive man. I could glare a bird's eye frozen dinner into a hot meal. I was a little disappointed that my x-ray vision only seemed to work on the Filipino mailman, but I found if I glared at the dog long enough, it would make her butt itch. I loved that. That was fun. So after 8 fairly miserable days of having a radioactive thing stuck to the back of my sewn to the back of my eyeball, I went back to the doctor. He took it off. And he told me everything's looking pretty good, and just as an update, I just learned that I don't have to go back quarterly now. I go back yearly. It's looking that good. So it's amazing. It's amazing what they're doing out there. My goodness, it's just amazing. Anyway, and that goes to the medical profession and all the wonderful angels that helped me through those challenges. But so he said, it's looking good, so where's my joke? And I thought, well, I hadn't much to do for 8 days. I'd been giving it a little thought. So I said, Doc, what I do for a living is I travel around the country and I meet nice folks and I speak to them. And it occurred to me when I get on that plane next week to Chicago wearing this patch and my favorite maroon jogging suit that's so comfy when I fly, I'm going to be a one-eyed, one-orbed, flying purple people meter. And he was too young to get it. He said, gee, you're a professional comedian. I thought you could do better than that. And I said, well, come on, Doc, you got to give me a break because you know my history. And by now, as you know, I'm half blind and half nuts, so give me a break, for crying out loud. And he gave me an extra sucker for that one, so. Well, folks, I hope I have said something that helps you push you towards your goal. I know you've got some wonderful, dynamic ones, you wonderful people. Thank you for having me. Remember that falling on your face is still moving forward. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for those very encouraging words, and congratulations on your issues that you've had with the cancer. I hope everyone's had a fantastic time over the past few days. I have proof that you did. Please take a look. With only one event left, this evening's presidential dinner, it's time to look forward to 2013. NFDA President-elect Bob Rawson, would you please share some of your excitement about Austin next year?
Before I talk about Austin, I just want to say hats off to North Carolina. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, as we look toward Austin, we certainly look forward to next year's convention, where the leading and the largest funeral service association takes over the city of Austin, Texas. It's going to be a great place for funeral directors, cremationists, cemeterians, and suppliers to relax, learn, and have a great time. When we visited Austin, I was really impressed with the city. There's so many things to see and do in the live music capital of the world. And the Texas delegation, we had the opportunity to meet with them yesterday, and they say they do everything bigger and better in Texas, and they have promised to do this for this convention next year. And it is also going to be the home of where Robbie Bates gets installed as president in his home state association. So please make plans now to attend that. At this time, I'd like to have Randy Earl stay with us up on stage, and if Christine Pepper and David Massey, the president of the Texas Funeral Directors Association, could come up, please. We're going to throw away some T-shirts for some free registrations to next year's convention. I don't see David. I'm not seeing David. Robbie, you want to come up and join us, please? If you were one of the lucky people to catch the T-shirt, you want to see Sandy Jeske, and she's waving her hand right over here, and she will get you taken care of. So with that, I think we've got a little video that we're going to let y'all see about Austin, Texas. Hi, I'm Bob Rawson, president of the National Funeral Directors Association. This is my wife, Beth. Both of us are really looking forward to seeing you in Austin in 2013 for the NFDA International Convention and Expo. We can't wait to bring the world's largest network of funeral directors to this exciting city. There's so much to do here. I promise you an experience you'll be talking about for years to come.
It will be wonderful to see all of y'all here. Please join us as Austin, the state capital of Texas, welcomes NFDA in 2013.
Hello, I'm NFDA CEO Christine Pepper. We're really looking forward to seeing you here at the 2013 NFDA International Convention and Expo here in Austin. You're in for a real treat here in Austin, where you'll have an unforgettable opportunity to network and learn from leading professionals from around the world.
Hi, I'm Robbie Bates, President-elect of the National Funeral Directors Association. My wife Betty and I are so ready to welcome you and glad you're coming to our home state of Texas and this wonderful city of Austin. We're so thrilled you're going to be right here in our own backyard, so we can show you a little taste of that Texas bravado and what the city of Austin, the 14th largest city in America, has to offer. There's so many ways for you to enjoy everything in our capital city.
As the live music capital of the world, Austin offers amazing music for every taste. With nearly 200 live music venues, you're bound to encounter fabulous music wherever you go in the city. In fact, you may be treated to live music as soon as you step off the plane in the Austin airport. In addition, world-class art and history museums enhance the cultural atmosphere of this dynamic city, where we have over 300 days of sunshine every year.
While you're here, be sure to make the most of Austin's friendly and vibrant restaurant scene. From world-famous Tex-Mex and delicious barbecue to a host of fine dining options, There's so many culinary delights. You'll be hard-pressed to try everything during your stay. Austin's award-winning restaurants offer a feast for the senses that will make you want to keep coming back.
Join us in Austin and learn what's new from a comprehensive array of funeral service experts. In addition, when you visit the world's largest funeral service expo, you'll have access to the widest range of suppliers with products and services that will help you grow your business. And of course, a wide variety of social events will ensure you have a lot of fun and the opportunity to network with other funeral directors during your stay. Get ready for an experience you will most definitely remember.
The 2013 International Convention and Expo offers the best value in funeral service. With everything you'll learn from your peers and expert presenters and things you'll see at the world's largest funeral service expo, you will achieve more in your business, your community, and in your life.
See y'all in Austin!
And once again, thank all of y'all for supporting NFDA and being here. I hope you've had as good a time as we have, and I look forward to seeing many of you tonight at the President's Dinner. We've got a band that's not going to stop playing till real late, great dancing music, and we look forward to seeing you next year in Austin. This concludes our convention. Thank you very much.